to say thank you very much to CoCon and all of the organizers, and my most humble thanks for giving me the opportunity to come here and present to you today. So I know I'm a little bit short on time, and this is a very busy conference, so I'm going to get right into it. This morning I'm going to be presenting to you 2024 A Cyborg Odyssey. So this is a little bit about me. My name is Len Noe, and if you ask my mother and father, I was named very appropriately because I've heard Len No my whole life. I have been everything from a troubled youth to a black hat hacker to a member of 1%er outlaw motorcycle gangs, and spent most of my life as an active criminal. They say that you can get to cyber through two channels. You can either go to school, get an education and a degree, or you can just become a criminal, spend a little time in jail, and then when you get out, I don't recommend everybody take my route. It was not a very friendly path to get here, but I'm grateful to finally be where I am. So I'd like to ask all of you, what does tomorrow's threat look like? I know a lot of people may say that it's going to be artificial intelligence, it's going to be an LLM. I think it's something different. I think it's going to be human as the attack vector. These are actually old x-rays of my hands. You can see very clearly I have 4 different devices. Currently, my chip count is at 10. I have 10 different subdermal implants implanted between my elbows and the ends of my fingers, all of which, except 2, are used for offensive purposes. So, allow me to introduce you to the concept of transhumans or biohackers. We are a subspecies of humans that have been around since the 1950s. I am what is known as a grinder. I am a do-it-yourself biohacker. I am one of a very long lineage of cyber security and just technological advanced, individuals. This is one of the people that came out before me. This is a gentleman by the name of Tim Cannon. The device that you see there that looks like a deck of cards was actually the first implanted piece of technology that was not medically developed. This is called the circadian. And anybody want to take a wild guess what this particular product does? Anyone? Glucometer? Glucose meter. Very close. This was the original Fitbit. This device would handle and get all of the bio information of the person that was implanted in. Now, if you take a look at his arm, this is a little bit more inconvenient than a Fitbit. But this opened the door to what could be done if you decide to step away from just using medical products. He actually left the United States, flew to Germany, had this implanted in his arm, and then got on a plane and flew home. And we're talking about airplane security right now, right? I don't think you can get away with that today. We also have the ability to do subhuman sonar. Most people don't know that if you actually put a magnet in the fingertips of your hands, it will actually give you an additional sense that you were not born with called magnetic vision. I can literally feel electromagnetic fields and currents. A lot of people ask me, well, what does that do for you, Len? Well, if I'm going to do a physical attack, and I can actually source out and trace your electrical wiring just by running my hands over your walls. What you see here, this is called the North Star V2. This was the very first consumer-grade implantable technology that you can purchase. And you see what it does. It basically gives you a hand that looks like your Iron Man, which I think is really cool. But remember, I'm an ex-black hat. I'm an ex-criminal. Putting something in my body that just basically is a big flashing sign that says, look at me, is probably not going to be very good in terms of remaining hidden and obfuscated. But this particular device came out back around 2012. So this is the timeline that we're dealing with. What you see here, this is a gentleman by the name of Rich Lee. He actually put magnets in the tarsuses of his ears And that what you see around his neck, that's not a necklace. That's an inductor coil, and he has in-body headphones. Now, headphones are nice if you want to listen to music, but what if you want to do a side channel and you're the only person that can hear what's going on? This would be great if you're going to Las Vegas or someplace where you're going to be doing a lot of heavy gambling and nobody can actually detect it. This is a situation where they were actually playing with a solution called Chlorine-9. And I know that this looks very scary with black eyes, but this solution, when actually dropped into the eyes, will actually allow a human being to see in almost complete darkness. He was actually able to go into a room with 3 other controlled test subjects and was able to pick out patterns and different directed objects in a room that was completely dark. So we can actually, as humans, see in the dark. What we can actually do with our bodies is beyond what we actually currently we believe. So I actually introduced the concept of human-based implanted attacks back in 2020 at RSA. A lot of people may not have seen those, so I'm going to do a quick review. Currently, as I said, I have 10 implants within my body. RFID, I have the ability to interface with almost 400 different types of physical access control systems. HIV, Prox, Pyramid, Indala, you name it. So the first attack is called Handshake. And all I need for this is a little bit of social engineering. I need either a Prox mark or some type of tool to skim your access badge. This is a physical access attack. So I'm going to start off by you opening up the Proxmark Chameleon Mini and scanning a badge. Yes, that used to be my badge, and yes, I look like every piece of clip art you've ever seen. So once I scan the badge, and we've been scanning badges for over a decade now, I'm going to actually get the information pulled in, and I'm going to make this one called Lens ID. Now I'm going to go ahead next, and I'm going to actually scan my implant so that we can get a baseline, something that we can compare to. So we'll see that I pull in another unique identifier, and I'm going to name this implant. Takes just a few moments, and we'll open it up and we'll see I do actually have data. Now, this is just one specific type of access card. There are multiple different styles, but at this point, all of them are potentially vulnerable. Realistically, once I have this, I can monetize this if I want. If I'm part of a larger collective, I can share this data across the rest of my collective. This is where spread and sprawl of your compromised data comes in. So after posting it up online for the rest of my evil crew to start playing with, we're going to go back in, and I'm going to pull both of those files in, and we're going to run a differential against them, just so that we can see what's different between the ID and my actual implant. So we're going to start by selecting the ID, second the implant, and if we look, we'll see that every bit of data is the same except for sector 0, line A. How hard is it for me to just say, right? And due to the fact that this chip actually has the magic bit set, I can actually program these on the fly with my mobile device. I actually keep attacks ready to be programmed onto the chips on my mobile at all times. But to keep myself from actually accidentally hacking somebody, I keep the chips passively disabled at all times. The last thing I want to do is hack somebody and not me. So now that we've actually written the data back down to my implant, if we scan again, we're going to go ahead and get implant 2. So this will be a new read. And at this point, I now have a complete clone of your access badge on one of my implants. So this is where I like to try and talk about things. We're all cybersecurity professionals in here. And from what I've seen among the front here and among the dignitaries, some very important people that have very strong opinions about cybersecurity. How do you stop me? Let's say you've got security cameras. What are you going to see? You're going to see my hand come up towards your badge reader and then your door open. There's different laws I don't want to speak to the laws here in India, but in Europe we have GDPR, in the United States we have HIPAA. These are inside my body and therefore considered medical and private. The authorities are not even allowed to ask me about them. So what happens if you catch me in some restricted location? You're going to probably call your operations security, you're going to take me to the ops office, you're going to call the authorities, right? When they get there, they're going to search me, what are they going to find? Nothing. So again, I'm not going to speak to the laws here in India, but anywhere else in the world, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk out with nothing more than a trespass. But the problem is I have 9 other implants, and based on what technology is in that restricted location, you don't know what else I've already done. Moving onward, now, I named this attack leprosy. This is an attack against Android devices, and it requires a little bit of social engineering. And I'm going to do this one in real time for everyone. So, on the top of your screen, I have an ngrok session. On the bottom, I'm just going to open up a Metasploit listener. And I like to do this in real time because I want people to realize how dangerous this type of thing is. So, we're all here at CoCon. If you didn't know that I had implants and I walked into this room and immediately started saying this, oh my God, can somebody help me please? I was just on the phone with my family back in the United States. My daughter was taking one of my grandkids to the hospital. My phone died. Can I please borrow someone's phone? Oh God, who remembers phone numbers anymore? 734, well shoot, what's the country code for the United States? And mine was on. All the while I've got your phone in my hand and I'm pretending to actually try and remember what my daughter's phone number is. I used the implant to actually point to a web location. And I just downloaded a Trojan onto your device in less than 10 seconds. And as we can see here, I now have a complete bidirectional communication into an Android device. And at this point, the ability to dump SMS, call logs, even navigate the file system as if I was sitting in front of it becomes extremely simplistic. So let me ask all of you a question here. We all are security minded, so this is not a question that is a joke. I want an answer. Will any of the gentlemen in this audience let me have free range to look at your wallets, and the ladies, can I please look through your purses? Anyone? No. You're not? Okay, we got one guy here. There's always one. But the simple point is, what we have in our wallets compared to what we have in our mobile devices is infinitely different in terms of the amount of personally identifiable information. Nobody wants to let me have access to your wallet, but you'll hand a complete stranger your phone. We need to stop looking at these devices as if they're toys, for starters. Finally, the last particular attack that I started with was called Flesher. And this is one of my favorites. As an old school hacker, anyone here not familiar with a tool called Beef? Beef is one of the older tools that's out there. This is that hacker's tool that if you go to the website, the minute you log into that and it comes up in your browser, I got you. This is not urban legend, this is a real tool, this is it. It utilizes Java, it's cross-platform, and realistically, when you're doing hacking demonstrations, it gives you a really nice GUI to log into. So it's a lot nicer to use than just always showing nothing but a dark terminal with a cursor blinking. So again, all I have to do is convince someone to actually let me get my hands on their phone. Due to the fact that I work predominantly with IT and security professionals, I went and cloned the PuTTY website. So if you saw the PuTTY website up on one of your browsers, you probably wouldn't think too much of it. But the minute that particular page reads in, I'm in that device. And this will work for Android, iPhones, Windows, Linux, doesn't matter. Additionally, Beef gives me the ability to have access to a plethora of built-in modules, everything from turning on your microphones and cameras to GPS locating the devices. As a father of 5 daughters, this terrifies the hell out of me. And it's a completely free tool. So I can use this even to do on-device spear phishing attacks if I so desire. So those are the old attacks that I released back in 2020. Now, in companionship to my newly released book, I came up with some new attacks that I'd like to demonstrate to you guys today. So the first one is an implant-based man-in-the-middle. So this one requires multiple implants and the use of a third-party tool. I used a Raspberry Pi 0W2. If you don't know what those look like, it's not much bigger than a stick of gum. And I'm using that loaded with Ubuntu 24.04 to act as the Wi-Fi hotspot. And then what I did was put a transparent proxy behind it. So let's show you how this looks. We start off with Ubuntu, and the reason I chose this was just for the simplicity of setting up a hotspot. 24.04 gives you the ability right within the networking section to pop a hotspot. You don't have to configure it. It sets up all the IP tables and the forwarding. It makes it so much easier. As I said, I also put a transparent proxy. And for the purposes of my demonstration today, I'll be demonstrating against an Android device, but I do have the instructions that I can do this against an iPhone as well. So for all of my iPhone people out there, if you'd like to come and catch me after my talk and discuss it, I'd be happy to go through it with you. Now, just to show you how easy this is, I'm actually going to program my chip and show you guys exactly the whole process. So in this case, what I've done is I put a URL redirection NFC tag, and it's pointing at the certificate for the transparent proxy. Once again, this is what it looks like on my mobile device, and now my chip is armed. All I have to do is convince someone to actually put the device into my hand, and you'll see it will go ahead and it's going to ask me what I want. Oh, there's the root level certificate. Now, Android was nice in the fact that it said, nope, we're not going to let you install certificates directly from the My Downloads directory. However, all you do is swipe down on the window pane, hit settings, type certificates, and it'll let you install it right from within settings with no additional challenge for security. Thank you, Android, for making my life as the bad guy a lot easier. So at this point now, we actually have the certificate loaded on the target device. However, I still need you guys to connect it. So, by a show of hands if you want, who shuts off their Wi-Fi when they leave the house? Okay, there's a couple. There's some. I appreciate that. Now, this particular attack really doesn't care because part of the NFC routine of connecting to a SSID Wi-Fi network is it's going to turn your Wi-Fi back on. So, I appreciate the effort, but it doesn't really help us. So at this point, utilizing a second chip, I can do a connect to Wi-Fi, and shortly thereafter, even if we're sitting having lunch, your phone is going to be doing a lot of things in the background, and I'm just going to start taking all of the connections into grid text. So yeah, the idea of being able to be compromised through implants becomes very, very dangerous. And then finally, the last attack I have to show you before we can start discussing how do we protect ourselves from this particular attack is an implant-based smishing or phishing. So can anyone tell me what is the hardest thing for the bad guys to do when it comes to a phishing attack? Anyone? We got to get somebody to believe the hook. We got to get somebody to click on that initial link, right? Well, what happens if I can get it to where it's no longer fake? So this is a situation where I'm going to actually compromise a third-party intermediary to get to the actual phishing target. So this is a dedicated spearfish. I'm really terrible with names, so this wonderful gentleman here, let's say he's my actual target. And I know that this guy over here with the camera who looks really kind of like a bad guy, I don't know why. But let's say I know him and this gentleman work together. I'm going to go after him. I'm going to compromise him and then have him send the fish to you from his device. As I'm showing you here. I just loaded up the chip. So now once the device comes into my hand, I can trigger it. It's going to say, what do you want the native response to be? Well, I want to use Gmail. And then it's going to actually put in predefined malicious attachment. And when I hit send, it's going to come from that authentic account. It's going to come from their actual phone number. It's going to come from their actual email address. And when it comes up on the other side, it's going to have the embedded hyperlinks to whatever malicious payload I want in that. And unfortunately, sir, there is no way you would ever know that that would be a phish. So we are at the point where we need to start looking beyond what we've known all along. So let's talk about mitigations. Before we do that, we have to talk about some technology. BYOD and bring your own device. You know, I'm not a class participation kind of a guy, but realistically, I'd be willing to bet there are quite a few people in here that have some type of business application on their mobile device right now. Even if it's Office 365. The truth is, we are now at a point where integrating both our business accounts as well as our personal on devices that are not maintained by the company is more the norm than the exception. And as such, we need to start looking at the fact that things like near-field communication are not, by default, a secured protocol. Additionally, this same protocol, which is the core of what most of my attacks are based in, is the same core technology that drives both Apple Pay and Android Pay. So with iOS 16 that was recently released, there's no way to shut off native read NFC. So for being the more secure of the mobile platforms, Apple and the iOS devices have now become less secure than the Androids, because on Android, we can still turn off near-field communication. Everyone here should be very comfortable and understanding of the concepts of step-up authentication. I'm not telling people don't use NFC. I'm telling people don't leave it wide open like it should be, standing privilege. If you need to use it, turn it on, make your transaction, turn it off when you're completed. So let's get down to actually how do you address the human threat at this point with current technology. When it comes to physical security, remove single-factor authentication. Everyone here should be very understanding of the idea that even to get cyber insurance these days, you need a minimum of multi-factor authentication in front of privileged data. Why would you have nothing more than just a scan, click, badge, door open to where all of that data is housed? If you want to be secure, we need to give our physical security at least the same minimal scrutiny that we give to our digital. Number two, when it comes to a digital security from an enterprise perspective, mobile device management wherever possible. And beyond that, I'm going to tell you the policies that I would suggest. Number one, do not allow standing privilege with NFC. If somebody turns NFC on, give it 5 to 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, shut it back off. Additionally, this is just a general advice when it comes to MDM. Do not allow browser sessions to maintain between sessions. When everything gets closed, terminate those sessions. That will take care of the attacks like beef. If I don't get into that session and set up persistence, the minute that website is closed, that connection is severed. So therefore, again, don't allow for standing access. When it comes to us as our individual selves, nobody likes to hear this, but we need to start focusing on some behavioral modification. Respect the data that is on your mobile devices and realize that this is a heck of a lot more valuable to adversaries than what's in your wallet or in your mail. I mean, realistically, there's the potential for medical information on your mobile device, historical financial data, access to personal health records, you name it. So our mobile devices are where it's at. Again, even if you're not in the case of using an MDM or mobile device management, shut off your vulnerable protocols and don't allow for standing access to vulnerable protocols. Stick with a strong identity security posture and continue to just push for that zero trust. And an example of this in this particular case is how many people actually look at their sent messages in their Gmails or whatever their default is. Okay, I got one person down, I got a couple. I'd love to see that. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this has actually been the most people that have raised their hand when I said who looks at their outbox out of any one of these talks I've given anywhere in the world. So that actually gives me a sign of hope. Be aware of our devices, be aware of what we're doing. So at this point, I have about 5 minutes I can do for Q&A. And at that point, I will let you guys go for the ability. I believe there's a tea coming up after this. So I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present this information, and if anyone has any questions. There's a couple of people.
Hi, thank you. One question, have you seen any of this on Face ID? Any kind of attacks, and what kind of attacks have you seen on Face ID, especially mobile authenticating based on that?
Facial ID is actually not that good. I won't really tell anyone I don't believe that biometrics are a good idea in any way, shape, or form. Reason being is once you actually register a biometric, it gets converted to what is called a biometric template. That is a file. If that file gets compromised, you cannot rotate your face, you cannot rotate your fingerprints. So we found that being able to get past Face ID has been done with deepfakes, and it's not good. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, Face ID is actually easily bypassable through deepfake and AI. Anyone else?
How about retina scan?
Retinal scans? Now, see, that's a good question. Retinal scans are easier, but the truth is we're not doing retinal scans. We're doing iris scans. Retinal scans, the equipment actually to do that is extremely expensive, and iris scans can actually be bypassed with an infrared photo of the eye. So.
You wanted to ask what are the biological or radiation hazards that are attached with?
I'm sorry, could you say that again a little bit slower?
Sure. Wanted to ask, so with respect to the implants that I've shown, what are if there are any biological or radiation hazards?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to go over there. Hang on.
Yeah, what are the hazards of having implants?
Oh, what are
Biological hazards.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. The speakers here, that was very muffled up here. I've had no health issues as a result of any of the implants. The only medical issue I've had, and it was my own darn fault, is when I had the large implant put at the top of my hand, they told me to get on anti-inflammatories prior to my procedure. I'm a big, strong, tough guy from Detroit. I don't need that. And I woke up the next day with half of a golf ball on the top of my hand from the sweating. Took some Advil for about a week, cleared it right up, haven't had a single problem, and no issues since.
Hey, can you please elaborate more about the implant-based side channel attacks?
Elaborate more on what?
Side channel attacks.
Implant-based side channel attacks.
Implant-based side channel attacks. That's the problem with the current technology, and everything that I have up until this point is all passive. We do need the receiver in order to energize the tags in order to be able to perform the attack. I am in the process of actually putting a Raspberry Pi 0W running Parrot in my arm. This will give me the ability to reach out and attack, but right now I'm limited only to RFID. If anyone is interested in these types of devices, you can find them at dangerousthings.com. These are all off-the-shelf purchase devices. I just found a way to repurpose them. I have enough time for one last question, and then I'm going to move forward because I don't I'm one of those guys that I don't want the next speaker getting cut short on his time because of me.
Hello, sir. Aditya here. So, what's your perspective on Neuralink, which Elon Musk is working on?
Help me out here.
Neuralink, what is your opinion on it?
Neuralink, honestly, I think Neuralink is good, but not for the reason that most people would think. I'm not a fan of the technology. Neuralink follows brain and every other brain-computer machine that has come out before it and requires open skull surgery in order to implement the electrodes. There's another company out there called c0c0n, which I think is a much more advanced company than Neuralink. They use a stent methodology where they're going in through an artery and then expanding on the inside of a capillary. They're getting similar results. They've actually done more human trials, but the fact that Elon Musk is involved with Neuralink has brought the idea of brain-computer interfaces and human technological, biological integration to the front of everybody's mind. So if nothing else, I do think that that is good just by giving it the publicity that it needs so that people can start realizing this is not just the future, it is now the present as well.
So, what are demerits and merits? Merits and demerits.
Merits and demerits.
Medics and plan.
Demerits.
I mean, advantages and disadvantages.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The advantages and disadvantages. Open skull brain surgery opens the patient up for large risks in terms of infection, rejection. By going into the capillary, number one, you lower the entry point for the doctors that are performing the surgery because you don't need neurosurgeons anymore. Plus, most doctors are familiar with the concept of a stent, especially for doing heart catheters, so it's a lower entry point for the doctor, a lower risk for the patient. And honestly, the results are pretty comparable. One thing that I discovered during the research for my book was the fact that Neuralink's for patient one, just from what they've released through the media, had almost 82% of the electrodes pulled from the gray matter of the brain. The patient suffered a degradation of functionality. Then Neuralink did an upgrade, which all of us realistically can say what they did is they oversampled what useful data they were getting to where it was a larger sample and it was able to be utilized. And when they put in the announcement that they were going to be starting on patient 2, they made a big announcement that they realized that they need 50% less electrodes than they thought that they did, because they've gone with this basically sampling software situation. The other thing that they discovered between patient 1 and patient 2 is that they needed to basically drill a channel into the top of the skull for the ability for the wiring of the implant device to be able to sit properly. So to me, these are a lot of additional steps and things that where the Synthroid, which is the c0c0n device, doesn't require any of that stuff. And one thing to keep in mind when it comes to Neuralink, c0c0n, BrainGate, any of the brain-computer interfaces at this time, right now the total functionality is up, down, left, right, and select. That's it.
Sir, last question. What are the possible attacks?
The possible merits?
Attacks.
Oh, attacks. Right now, quite a few. In terms of brain-computer interfaces, most of the technology is working over Bluetooth. And anyone who's done any type of Bluetooth hacking knows there are multiple attack paths, and just for the purposes of security, I'm not going to give you the exact answers. But if you look into any Bluetooth technology, tools like the Ubertooth one is all you really need to be able to break into Bluetooth command chain.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Lastly, this is my book. It's called Human Hacked, for anyone who missed it earlier. This is available now on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and wherever books are sold. I do have a couple left that I will be selling before the end of the conference. For all the people that received one up to this point, get with me after I get done here. I'll be happy to sign those for you. Once again, a little bit of my information. If anybody wants to hit me up on LinkedIn, I do respond to all requests. It may take me a day or so. But in closing, I'd like to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and speak with you all. I hope you found my presentation entertaining as well as educational. And with that, thank you so much.